What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Happy Hump Day. So, I want to talk about MLB realignment. Okay, I wanted to take a few days also to digest and listen to what everybody else's perspectives were, and see what came of it for me, right? And I wanted to give you my input on what I'm thinking of about this. And shout out to everybody in the chat, by the way. Everybody's in here, right? Gerald, Jonathan, how you guys doing? Good morning. And we're gonna go over this. Go over this MLB proposed realignment. This is something that's been in the works for probably almost a decade in one shape or another. And I still think at this point, I'll put it on the screen if you haven't seen it yet. At this point, there's still some things that have left to be decided. And I got to thank NFE from the Strike Zone for having me on this channel yesterday. We talked about this. We had a great discussion. We got some input from other people. And for those that weren't on that live stream that are here, you let me know what you think as well, obviously. So welcome and thank you for spending some time with me on a Saturday morning. But let me put this right up on the screen, okay? Now, let's look at this. Put the screen, make it bigger. These are the proposed brackets, okay? They're proposing going from right now 30 teams in 6 divisions, which would essentially be 5, which are where they are now, 3 divisions of 5 in each league, right? For 15 to 8 divisions of 4, meaning get 32 teams. So they're talking about expanding to 32 teams from 30, right? And one of the expansion teams would be in the American League. One of the expansion teams would be in the National League. But based on this new bracket, okay, if you look at the AL Northeast, it would be the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox, and the Phillies. Then it would be on the Mid-Atlantic, the Orioles, the Nationals, the Pirates, and the Cleveland Guardians. Then you have the AL Great Lakes. You have the Twins, Detroit Tigers, Milwaukee Brewers, and the Toronto Blue Jays. Then you have the AL Southeast. You got the Atlanta Braves, Miami Marlins, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the expansion team. Let's just say for this sake, it's Charlotte or Nashville, Tennessee, right? There's a couple of different proposals. There's Charlotte, Nashville. There's also Portland and Salt Lake City on the West Coast. I'll give you my input on these as well. And I do think Nashville and Salt Lake City are the most logical fits for expansion teams. So now let's move over to the NL. NL Midwest, you've got the Cubs, the White Sox, the Cardinals, and the Reds. Then you've got the NL Central, which is the Rockies, the Royals, the Texas Rangers, and the Houston Astros. Okay. Then the NL Southwest, the LA Dodgers, the Padres, the Angels, and the Diamondbacks. Okay. And then the NL Northwest, you got the Seattle Mariners, the A's, the San Francisco Giants, and another expansion team, whether it be Salt Lake City or Portland. In this particular bracket here, there's a proposal for Charlotte. There's also a proposal for Portland. Now, let me take this off the screen. Okay, I have this on my phone. I took a picture of this on my phone just so we could refer to it if we want to and talk about it. Okay, and you can ask any questions you want when it comes to this type of stuff. Okay, couple of things here, and Rob Manfred, the commissioner, made it clear that geography is going to be a big part of this. And if you look at it, the AL is basically Northeast to the Midwest, the right half of the country, and then the NL is basically Midwest to the West Coast, left half of the country. It's basically split in half down the middle, right, per league. Okay, now there's a couple things here. Can you expand to 32 teams without having to do a big realignment? That's one of my first questions I would have. Okay, and if let me know if in the questions, in the chat, if you have any questions regarding this, because I want to get your input on this as well. Okay, now obviously they're factoring in TV ratings too. Majority of the TV ratings or the high-end ratings are on the East Coast, because you can see, NFB, my brother, what's going on, man? The majority of the ratings are and remember, everybody, if you're not subscribed to NFE, I was on his channel yesterday. We discussed this realignment. And I wanted to add a couple things that we to our discussion yesterday, which is why I want to talk to you guys and gals today. Okay, but thank you for having me on your stream yesterday to talk about this. I really appreciate it, brother. So, Consigliere, there he is. Again, TV ratings. The majority of the TV ratings is going to be in the East Coast because it's the most watchable time. How many folks in the East Coast watch games from 10 a.m. and from 10 p.m. to 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning? I don't know many. And I don't know many content creators who do live streams at 2 o'clock in the morning either. Okay, I don't know. I don't. I got to sleep. Okay. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to eliminate a lot of this travel or minimize the travel. And if you look at the way the things are fractioned out, they kind of do that. Okay. With the AL Northeast here, and the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox, and the Phillies. The furthest they go is Boston to play in division. And I'm going to use the Yankees as an example. They don't have to fly down to Tampa anymore, right? Tampa doesn't have to fly up here anymore to play in division. They also don't have to go up to Toronto. Like the Rays don't have to fly up to Toronto, and the Toronto Blue Jays don't have to fly all the way down to Tampa to face the Rays. Now, I think the biggest beneficiary here is the Toronto Blue Jays because of the division they're proposed to be in here. Okay, which is the Great Lakes. You got the Brewers, the Tigers, and the Twins. I think the Blue Jays would sign up for that. I think they would sign that we don't have to play all these guys on a regular basis. Yeah, we'll let the Mets and the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Phillies pound each other all season, and we can coast to a division. Okay, that's one of the ways to look at it. Now, another way of looking at it too is there's going to be an unfortunate. The first thing I'm also noticing is that if you have all these teams in the division, the Yankees can never play the Phillies in the World Series. Can never play the Mets in the World Series based on this realignment. They can't play the Braves in the World Series. Okay, so that is a unfortunate thing for me, at least as a fan. I want to see some of these traditional rivalries. As much as it would be great to play the Mets a few times more a year during a regular season, I'd rather face them in the World Series. Right? That's when you want bragging rights in New York, that's when you're going to get it in the World Series, not in May. Right? They're going to play the Mets next year, I think in June and then September 11th to 25 years to the day when it happened. Okay, fine. But it's not the same thing as the World Series. So it's not what's Tappers is a good question. The proposal, they're looking to expand teams in the next CBA, which is after next season. Okay, the proposal. Now, reason why I say Nashville and Salt Lake City, I was talking about this on NFE stream yesterday. There's a couple things here. In Nashville, there's already a stadium plan, and there's already an ownership group established. And Don Mattingly's been spearheading this initiative to kind of get a team in Nashville for quite some years now. So, and you put him in that region in between the Cardinals and the Royals and the Atlanta Braves. It's not poaching for any of the fan bases, right? You get a North Carolina team, it's probably going to poach from the fans of the Braves, and so on and so forth. So you put somebody in Nashville, you kind of building, you're adding to the fan base. And obviously they want to add fans. They want to add to playoff teams because it's going to add revenue to the game, right? So, which is going to add spending to the game and all this type of stuff, which is what they want ultimately. They want to grow the game because of the money. We know this, right? So on the flip side, on the west side, Portland, not much of a sports town. That's a college sports town, not even baseball. Salt Lake City, on the other hand, that's a growing sports town. Okay, they just added an NHL team. Okay, and you can sandwich in between Colorado and Las Vegas. Geographically, it makes sense there to have a team. Okay, and again, you wouldn't be poaching from the Mariners fan base. You wouldn't be poaching from other teams' fan bases. So it makes sense to have Nashville and Salt Lake City, at least geographically. Now, would I be opposed to North Carolina? No, but I think Atlanta probably would. So that's one of the things that needs to be factored in. I think this bracket, this proposal is a work in progress, but there's still things that I would look to refine. And I was talking to NFE about this yesterday. If you're just looking at the brackets, we would maneuver some teams around. Instead of the Phillies, I would take the Phillies out of the AL Northeast and replace them with the Nationals, right? Put the Phillies in, try to get them in the National League, right? Or keep them in the National League. It's teams like that. Or if you look at the NL Midwest, the Reds, the Cardinals, the White Sox, and the Cubs. Okay, that's all centralized in one geographic location. Okay, makes the travel really, really much easier. But I'd rather move one of those teams somewhere else. Because the fact of the matter is, if you look at NL Northeast, and I think that's going to be pummeled the most, those are the biggest markets, New York, Philadelphia, and Boston, right? And based on this metric, if you have the winners of each division, right, 8 divisions making the postseason, right, 8 teams, then 3 teams in the AL Northeast are not going to be in the playoffs. 3 big market teams, 3 big spenders, right? And the fact is, too, that when it comes to spending, unless something is done in the CBA to put forth a salary floor to mandate that the teams that don't spend actually spend, the teams that receive revenue sharing actually spend, then the same teams are going to be spending, right? The Phillies, the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox, right? And superstars are going to be playing for these teams, right? And I understand minimizing, traveling less can help with superstars, potential reduce injuries. I get it. But do you want to have teams packed with superstars not in the postseason? This is where I think it needs to be tinkered with a little bit. I want to put these guys in a position to basically create a crash course or a collision course to get to the playoffs in the World Series. I would rather keep the Mets and the Phillies in the National League and let them go with the Yankees and the Red Sox, right? Now, again, I would put the Nationals in that Northeast bracket. I would put another team in there, something like that. But as we stand here, the Blue Jays would probably sign up for this in a heartbeat, and so would probably the Atlanta Braves, because you got the Marlins, the Tampa Bay Rays, and an expansion team. It's going to be an easier path for them, right? And even in Montreal, as much as I like Montreal Expos, they're going to be poaching off the Toronto fan base. So, and that's one of the problems, I think. So geographically, I don't think in this next segment that would make sense. I think Nashville and Salt Lake City represent the most logical fits on an expansion. But again, can you expand without having to do a massive realignment? It's going to be hard to do. It really is going to be hard. If you add 1 team from each league, to each league, then you have 16 teams, right? Instead of him doing 2 or 4, 4 divisions of 4, maybe you can do 2 divisions of 8, which is still 16 times 2, 32, right? Or something like that to make it a little bit easier, a little bit more competitive, and less kind of frantic. So I think it would kind of throw quite a bit of chaos into the baseball universe. And you folks, let me know what your thoughts are too. If you have questions about this, this is the time to ask them. And this is not like the NBA, and it shouldn't be. I mean, it's more like the NFL almost. So, or the proposal would be more like the NFL. But I don't want to alienate good teams who are, unless something changes in the CBA, they're going to continue to be the ones that spend. And then you're going to have a lot of teams packed with superstars not in the postseason. That's the first question I have. Do you really want to see that? Or do you want to see the Brewers face the expansion team? Okay, whatever. But ratings are there for a reason. Buckeye, what's happening, my friend? The ratings are there for a reason. Again, a majority of the TV watch time is on the East Coast because it's the most watchable hours, right? And obviously, when geographically speaking, they want to minimize travel from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the West Coast to the East Coast. So based on this proposal, they would be going there basically half the amount of time that it would almost be like an every other year thing, or half the amount of time per year. So the Yankees wouldn't be going to the West Coast multiple times. If they go 4 times, they go twice, or something like that. And if the West Coast comes east, same thing. You cut it in half. So, and this is where I think this still leaves quite a bit to be desired. Yeah, less travel can help with the injury component. I get it. But unless these other things are put forth, a salary floor, and I've talked to Jonathan about this, talked to NFE about this, talked to Buckeye, talked a lot, Concietti, talked to Ken about this from Milky Truth. Unless that's put forth in the CBA, then it's going to be much harder to really facilitate this in a way that's going to promote enjoyable baseball across the board, right? A lot of teams, fan bases are going to be essentially deprived of their teams being in the postseason. And that stinks, which is why I would not pack one division. It's almost as if it was strategically made that way to make sure that at least two of those teams don't make the postseason. Because you could essentially have those teams, let's just say the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Phillies, and the Mets. That to me is the toughest division in this realignment. Okay? Let's just say they all win 90-plus games. And then the division winner of almost every other segment wins under 90 games. So you essentially have three teams that have more wins than the division winners of these other brackets not going to the postseason. How are you going to do that? How are the best teams going to be in the postseason? They're not going to be, right? So this is where I think that there's still a bit of a disconnect. This is where I still think that I would maneuver some of these teams around to make it a little bit more equitable and make it a little bit more sensible. But that's just my opinion. Baseball, I don't work for baseball. I don't work for Yankees. Nobody pays me for this stuff. But this is just, doing my homework. Again, speaking of people who do their homework. And what type of effect it would have. And I guess I don't, when all the Yankee games, when they play on the West Coast, I don't stay up all hours of the night to watch all those games. I try to, but again, I'm up in the morning at 6 a.m. I have to sleep. So it does turn to an NFL model. And again, how often do NFL games start at 10 p.m.? Never. They're in the afternoon, right? Prime watch hours. 7, 8 at night. They finish at 10 a.m. They finish at 10 p.m. or finish at 11 p.m. They don't start at that. Okay? And and a lot of reason they do that is for ratings, watch time. So I think the same component there should be factored in. And it looks like it is. But again, this isn't going to help West Coast teams either, because they're not coming out east as often, and they wouldn't be coming out east as often, meaning they wouldn't get as much exposure, watch time exposure. So the TV ratings, I don't know how they would be able to, advertisement too. Yeah, I don't know how they would manage this. This to me, I think is a work in progress, which I think, I think it makes more sense to do the expansion without a massive realignment. But I know that this is something they've been working on for a long time, so I think it's going to be inevitable. But I would definitely move the teams around a little bit differently. If you want to expand the fan base, you got to put the fans in prime position to watch the games, right? So, and night games in the West Coast are almost sleep time in the East Coast. So, and this is where certain segments of the fan base are going to be alienated. Even if you have a 1 o'clock in the afternoon game on the East Coast, it's 10 a.m. on the West Coast. People are still up. They're up, right? So, but on the flip side, you have families, you have kids. I don't know how many people are going to be staying up all hours of the night. So, well, that's that thing too, Joe. So you can't expand until the Marlins Pirates. Where would you relocate them? Pirates, Rockies, and White Sox. Where would you relocate those guys? And why? I mean, we already know the Athletics are relocating to Las Vegas. But the plan is to add 2 teams in the next CBA. And that was talked about in the last CBA too. They want to add, and this is probably going to be Rob Manfred's legacy, right? A part of his legacy. He wants to go out and leave it to the next commissioner to try to figure out the kinks or to take the heat, right? So, well, this is the other thing too, Buckeye. Yeah, I mean, and this is the other thing too. Like, I think another component of the CBA is fans should not have to have 5 memberships to watch their favorite team. You shouldn't be blocked. If you live in Texas, you should be able to watch the Yankees play the Texas Rangers. Like, living in the Bronx, some people in the Bronx are blocked out of the Yankee games. How are you blocked out of the Yankee games? You live right by Yankee Stadium. You can't afford to go to the stadium because it's so expensive. But how in the world do you block out of Yankee games? Something is not right. Like, I don't want to have Peacock and Amazon Prime and Hulu and all these things just to watch the Yankees and the MLB TV app. What's kind of crazy. Shouldn't be that many requirements just to watch your favorite team play. And you shouldn't have to buy the extra innings package either, which you don't now. You can customize it. But I don't want to pay to watch 26 teams when I'm only watching one or two. There's no way. What's the point? How can MLB add franchises when half a dozen teams have a roster? It's a good question. Why there's so many levels of the minors, right? That's another thing. You know what? Like football isn't in the minors like that. I mean, neither is basketball. You got the rookie league, you got the instructional league, and then there's no single A, double A, triple A in basketball or football. It's essentially high school, college, and pros, right? Baseball is different. There's a hell of a lot more players too. There's also more players on the field, with the exception of football, obviously. And the development cycle is different in baseball than it is in football. And basketball is a lot more reliant on your physical speed and skill and strength, as opposed to you can be the strongest man in the world, but if you can't hit a 96-mile-an-hour fastball with movement, it ain't gonna do you anything good, right? So that's one reason I think you saw Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player of all time by a mile, and he couldn't really play baseball that well. It's not that easy, right? What's the thing? Yeah, Yes Network. You're blocked out of this. You're blocked out of that. Like, it's kind of crazy. Blackout restrictions. It happens to me all the time, too. And you got to listen to it on the radio. You try to get some streaming through some, whatever, some Chinese streaming service or whatever it is. The fact that you shouldn't have to buy that many memberships to watch your team. But this is the thing, too, Buckeye. Yeah. And again, like, if you keep the brackets as such, you're going to have teams with a lot of superstar players, because if those are the teams that spend, those are the ones that are going to continue to add the superstar players. And a lot of those superstar players are not going to be playing in the postseason based on this layout. And again, the Yankees can never play the Mets in the World Series, or the Phillies, or the Braves based on this, because they're all in the same division. They can play the Dodgers, sure, it's great. The Phillies can play the Dodgers, great. But this is where, to me, there's a disconnect. And LeBron's the greatest out of Cleveland. He's not better than Jordan, but that's another conversation for another day. But again, based on these brackets, it makes it harder to preserve some of the rivalries, the traditional rivalries, the historic rivalries in baseball. Yankees, Red Sox, right? They're still in the same division. You can preserve that, but do you want to, Ken, what do you know, my man? I don't want to play the Mets 12 times a year over 6. It kind of takes away from the mystique of playing the Mets. I don't want to play the Phillies 12 times instead of 6. Because based on this, too, you'd be playing in-division games more. You play the Blue Jays less and the Phillies more. You play the Orioles less and the Mets more, right? So, and again, the Blue Jays I'm sure they would be fine getting out of division, so they don't have to play the Red Sox and the Yankees as often as they do, even though they're playing better now. And this is where I think it's still work in progress. This is where I would tinker with it a little bit, right? And I would hate for teams full of superstars who win more games than division winners from one of these other divisions missing the postseason. Okay, and speaking of postseason, the lineup just came out for the Yankees. Let me give it to you right now. Trent Grisham leading off in center field. Ben Rice batting second at first base. Aaron Judge DHing, batting third. Cody Bellinger batting cleanup in right field. Jazz Chisholm batting fifth at second base. Jason Dominguez batting sixth in left field. Anthony Volpe batting seventh at shortstop. Austin Wells at the dish batting eighth. Ryan McMahon batting ninth at third base. And on the mound is Max Fried. I don't like the fact that Ahmed Rosario and Jose Caballero are not in the lineup. I would still sit Volpe and play Caballero, and I would sit Judge and play Rosario in right field, or the other way around. Play Caballero in right field and play Rosario at shortstop. right? If Judge just looks gassy, his timing is a little bit off, I would give him a day. Let him rest. Let him recover. And they've won every game that Caballero has been in, right? That he started. So, like, no Stanton. Exactly, Max. Exactly. No Stanton in there either. And I understand too. They're going to want to preserve Stanton. The dude's got 17 home runs and like 170 at bats. Like he's on like a 50 home run pace for a full season. So, and we need him to be healthy come late September and October. So, but again, and once Aaron Judge can basically go back to the outfield, it's going to make it easier for Stanton to play regular back-to-back days because he'll be DHing. He won't be in the field. But you could tell he's got a 90-year-old man's legs in a 35-year-old body. So that's just a fact. But he's probably one of the strongest guys in all of baseball. He can hit a ball a mile. But again, what's this they're talking about? CeeLo? Yeah, I mean, the playoffs is going to be based on this bracket, Max. And let me know what your thoughts are, Max, if you've seen the brackets, the expansion brackets. It's a lot of good teams are going to be shut out, packed with superstars, right? Yeah, well, exactly, too. How many? Yeah, there are teams that on a sub-500 record winning the division. You know, oh, they went 8-9. They won the division. 7-10. They won the division. That happens on. Yeah, happens on a. That's a great point, Ken. Yeah, and you get 10-7 teams in the outside looking. Exactly. That's a perfect example. Okay. I'm Ron. I can. That's a question to ask them. It was. Did Boone want to play Caballero? Was overruled by analytics. Don't know. No. And this is why analytics. Mike Fishman needs to be in a post-game press conference with Aaron Boone. Let him face the fire. Let him ask the questions. Don't put them all on Boone. 50-50. Well, that's the thing, right? And look at the AL Northeast. The Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Phillies. The big market teams are all in the same division. You're going to have three. And based on this metrics, the division winners from all 8 segments go to the playoffs. You'd have big spending teams with superstars not going to playoffs. And you'd have teams with a lot less wins than those teams going to the postseason. So I think it's going to be. It does take away the history behind each division. This is my first question is, can you expand without having to realign everything, right? Can you just do 2 divisions of 8 teams each in both leagues, right? Do the AL East, the AL West, NL East, NL West, or something like that. You name it whatever you want, right? Instead of 3 divisions of 5 right now, which you're at on both sides, making 30 teams, they want to go to 32 teams. That's kind of inevitable. How do you do it to make it make sense? That's it. I think 2 times 8 is probably the most sensible path to take here when it comes to this. And I think the 2 most logical expansion destinations are Nashville and Salt Lake City, Max. Let me know what your thoughts are. You probably noticed, but in Nashville, there's an ownership group established already. There's also a plan for a stadium, put forth. And again, this is where you can geographically sandwich a team between the Braves, the Cardinals, and the Royals without poaching from other fan bases, right? If you go to North Carolina, they're going to poach from the Braves fan base. This is where you can do it without actually expanding the fan base. Nashville, yeah, and Don Mattingly's been spearheading that movement for years, right? Nashville, and the other side, I think Salt Lake City makes more sense than Portland. Portland's a college sports town, not a pro sports town. Okay. Salt Lake City added an NHL team. Okay. They're a budding sports town as well. And you can put them between Vegas and Colorado and not poach from other fan bases. So I think those are the 2 most logical destinations to expand the baseball fan base in a way you can probably generate money too and spending, because obviously they want to do this for spending, right? They want more revenue in the game, more spending teams in the game, and so on and so forth. But again, I preface this and I say this: there needs to be a salary floor in the CBA also to mandate teams that receive revenue sharing actually put forth a minimum payroll. Otherwise, they're going to lose draft picks, and so on and so forth. Because the fact of the matter is, if it stays like this, the spending teams are still going to be the Phillies, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Mets, right? 3 of those teams are not going to make the postseason. So you're going to have teams packed with superstars home playing golf when you other teams that aren't as good in the postseason. So to me, it's a work in progress, but I still think there's things that they could tinker with to make it better. It could be crazy. See those 16 playoff teams. I'm not sure they would ever go 16. That's half the game. That would be nuts. But the playoffs would be so much longer. Shorter 6-inning games. Points for speed. Yeah, see that. Damn. 3 inning. You take it a whole nother level, CeeLo. Well, that's the thing too, Beagle. Are we going to have enough MLB ready players with an expansion team? Because that's another 8 minor league teams. You're going to 6 minor league teams. You're going to have to add. You might as well do an international draft. Instead of doing the international pool and having them sign as free agents and pre-arb and arb and blah blah blah, combine it. Draft your college people and high school people with the internationals, just like the NBA does, right? That way you have enough players in enough pool to fill these teams, right? The union, the Players Association, and the owners, Buckeye. Players Association and the owners. Many good players would be snatched from the major league rosters when the Diamondbacks drew their initial roster. Show off their the team. Yeah, exactly, Ken. Exactly. Nashville has pledged to no further public spending on sports, a promise made in order to get their referendum on the Titans Stadium passed. I'm not sure if that's recent, Gerald, because they have an ownership group already agreed upon and a stadium plan already agreed upon. But we'll have to wait and see. Right? Pushing the Savannah Banana League. It's right. It's basically the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. But these are the types of things that, I think are fact. It's good. This is why I like to have these discussions, because folks like you who understand the game can factor this stuff in. Do any beat writers talk about this? No. I'm not even hearing players talk about this. And the foul trap, I'm not hearing any of them talk about this stuff. Right? Cheap ownership votes known for, pretty much. And the spending teams vote no on what? Certain things. They want to get rid of the ghost run. They want to get rid of revenue sharing, right? And I don't blame them. Teams that spend should not be penalized for investing in their product, losing draft picks for signing a player. Get rid of the qualifying offer, please. Get rid of the ghost runner, please. And make a damn salary floor. If you want to make something like this, an expansion, more palatable, more tolerable, then teams have to spend on players. Yeah, well, that's the thing too. See, could you imagine like a Salt Lake City team packed with Japanese players and Dominican players? Like, it's just like it would freak a lot of white people in Utah. I'm like, what is going on here? It's crazy. But it would throw variety and diversity into baseball, more of it into baseball, right? What I do at NHL currently has 2 divisions, AL and NL. What would you name them? What would I name them? I would just do the AL East, AL West, and NL East, NL West, or something like that. would have to name, but I would have 2 divisions in AL, 2 divisions in the NL, 8 teams each to make the math work. So you can have 32 teams and not have to throw everything on the mass chaos. Because this type of stuff is gonna, and you could still do winners, wild card, and by whatever, and still have enough teams competing to make it. It would be by record, and the teams with the best records will go, instead of something like this where a bunch of teams have good records are going to sit, and a bunch of teams who have mediocre records are going to go. And that to me is not fair. So be it. I don't know if it would force them to relocate, because they all have billionaire owners. They're just refusing to spend. What I would mandate is that salary floor, the money that you receive in revenue sharing, has to be spent on players. Has to be used to get you closer to the salary floor. Cannot be used for luxury boxes. What is the point of having luxury boxes when you don't have people sitting in them? Do you need a 7th home? No. Spend on your product. Right? Teams are added to the league. This is true. Teams added to, yeah. I mean, the Marlins and the, was it the Marlins and the Rockies were the last ones? It is. It is. I mean, they're trying to minimize travel and maximize ratings exposure. But again, it's the teams on the West Coast that travel to the East Coast less frequently are not going to have the same ratings as the other way around. So they're just not. Devil Rays, Marlins, Rockies. That's right. The Rays too. That's right. Well, that's the question, Cadiz. I mean, that's where I think this is where it needs to. I think you go division winner, and then the second place team will be the wild card team in each of the divisions. So you have 8. You still have 8 teams going, right? And the top 2 teams make sense. Get to go to the postseason. Makes it more competitive, right? And you're not having teams that, based on this metric, would be 5th place in these in the two string divisions playing, and teams that are in 2nd place not playing. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I mean, the quality of baseball is better now. You know, there's a lot more, and obviously they want to add more fans and want to generate more revenue. This, of course, it's a money grab, right? Because also more teams that go into the playoffs mean what? More playoff revenue, right? More revenue share, and so on and so forth. So they're going to try to stretch out as much money as possible. And as long as baseball continues to put forth record profits, record revenues, they're going to continue to figure out a way to filter more money to the players. Well, exactly too, Ken. The Pirates Stadium is gorgeous. It's just, the people is nice. The fans are beautiful. Just a great place. And they never pack the place. Yeah. But like, I want for these guys to get an opportunity to. Pirates say, where would you relocate the Pirates? That's the question. Where would you relocate them? Because here in Pirates are also in this bracket. Let me pull up this bracket again. The Pirates are in the AL Mid-Atlantic. They're also in the American League. So, yeah. Yankees can't play the Pirates in the World Series. The Cubs can't play the White Sox. You can't be. There's no. It gets rid of interdivisional stuff. Crosstown rivalries. Pirates and the Cubs and the White Sox are in the same division now. Right? Yankees, Mets, same division. It gets rid of a lot of the mystique of the interdivisional stuff or the crosstown stuff. So that's the other thing too. And yes, they do, the high drawing teams. And again, but why exactly too, Buckeye? Why eliminate the high drawing teams from the postseason? Why make it less likely they get into the postseason? Because based on these brackets, you'd have a fair amount of them would not make it. right? Based on this, let's just say the Angels somehow win the division, right? I mean, this one's brutal for the Angels because they're going from the division now in the American League that they can't win to the division nationally they can't win. Let's just say that the Angels they just go on a freak run and win the division, and the Dodgers get second place. Dodgers don't go to playoffs. People are going to want Dodgers in the playoffs, right? With all the superstar talent they have. This deprives teams an opportunity to get into the postseason that are packed with superstars. I think Utah is going to be, and this is the thing, relocating a team is not the same thing as expanding. They want to add 2 teams. They don't want to relocate teams and keep the same amount of teams. They want to add a team to Utah. They want to add a team to Nashville. So, and if you need to relocate some other teams, you relocate them. But I mean, people go to the Pirates to watch Paul Skeens, right? Every fifth that's when they get the most fans, when Paul Skeens is on the mound, right? So, yeah. Buffalo, oh my God. Kentucky's a college sports town. New Mexico, Wyoming, Nebraska, Montana. That's a lot of farmland, though. Nebraska's a football town. New Mexico, it's a high altitude town. Iowa's a lot of farmland. Montana. I also don't want to put some of these teams in tornado central, like some of these Nebraska, some of these other places are tornado havens. Arkansas, Louisiana, flooding, hurricanes. Like, I think they're going to geographically want to put teams in areas where there's not have to worry about natural disasters too, which would be kind of crazy. So that part I think has to be factored into geographically, CeeLo. But I kudos to you for Arkansas. Arkansas and Louisiana is a big football. That's LSU. These are big football towns. College football towns. Like Buffalo, the Bills. Do you really want to have 3 New York teams? I guess this is why they're being so selective with the teams. And this is why, to me, again, Salt Lake City and Nashville makes the most sense. Because it's away from that they can expand based, not poach from other cities. And in cities that are pro sports. Yeah, LSU baseball. LSU baseball is almost as big as LSU football. I mean, that's the SEC conference now in baseball is the premier conference in baseball, just like it is in football. Alabama, Roll Tide, Florida, like that's the premier conference in baseball. So is that. But LSU is also, isn't that one of the tornado centrals of the country? I gotta ask my wife. She tracks natural disasters, hurricanes and stuff. I know hurricanes it is. A team in Mexico, the Dominican Republic. It's a good question. I don't know. Virginia Beach. Well, I wonder if that would poach from the Nationals fan base or the Orioles fan base. It's a good question too, Ken. It's good. Virginia Beach. I wonder what the elements what's factored into their actuarial calculus when they put these things up. For proposal, Utah Mormons versus the Nashville line. Imagine that. There he is, Jonathan. Yoendris Gomez, yeah. Yes, we are, Cadiza. I mean, the Yankees are in a position to sweep the Nationals. Hopefully, they're in a position to win or sweep the White Sox too. So get them as much momentum as you possibly can. Well, this is the thing too. They'll have to factor in blackout scenarios. like TV streaming rights, TV rights, because how are you going to do that without alienating? Like, you want to add to Nashville, but are you going to alienate larger market fan bases? Do we have to buy another subscription to watch the Yankees play the Nashville team? Right? This is where I think it's, that's got to be part of this too. And this is something I would be talking about in the damn CBA. Vying for the Expos. Interesting. I wonder if they get approval there. Interesting. Nashville is Braves country. It is. But it's far enough that you probably wouldn't be poaching from much of the fan base. I mean, I think North Carolina would poach a little bit more. But you can. I mean, there are a lot of Braves fans there. Tennessee Vol fans too. It's Peyton Manning country too. He's Tennessee Vol. Big music town, so big music city. Isn't the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame there? I went to Nashville, Tennessee a while back. It's a great city. So it would be a great baseball city. And again, they have momentum there already with an ownership group and a stadium plan. And so Vanderbilt country too. Another premier baseball program. And you'd have probably in Nashville, and like those franchises will probably draft at the top. So if you have a premier player from LSU or a premier player from Nashville or Vanderbilt, then Nashville could draft one of them, right? If you have that would be really, really cool. Norfolk, Richmond. Yeah, I wonder what puts Nashville over Norfolk or Richmond or Virginia Beach. Is it? I mean, I know Don Mattingly's been pushing for a while, so he's got a little bit of juice in baseball too. But yeah, Tennessee Vol country, and that's it. And again, SEC. Premier conference, man. Premier conference. But this is where I think it's still some left to be desired here. I mean, it really, really does leave. I think this is a work in progress. I would kind of modify it but I think that, well, first off, the expansion has to happen first for the realignment to take place. So this expansion needs to be agreed upon by the owners and everybody else in the union. So, and that's not the only thing. I mean, there's constant talk about a potential lockout, and some of these ridiculous salaries are going to be one of the culprits for it. So they have to do something. They really, really do. Murder capital. There's a lot of places in the South with high crime rates and high murder rates, which is why it doesn't make any sense for these people, National Guard, to be in DC right now. But it's a good point too, CeeLo. Really good point. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. But I think this has got to be one of many legs that need to take place here. But you let me know what your thoughts are, gang. Give me your feedback here, too. I'll wrap this up in a minute, too, because I got to get back to work at a conference call at 11. So, but does less travel help star players stay healthier? Right? But does it even matter when you have star players on teams that probably won't be playing in the playoffs? It doesn't really work that way now because of the wild card format and so on and so forth. How do you do it when you have 8 divisions of 4 teams each? Beyond, you can have eight winners, and then do you have 4 more wild card teams, make 12? That would be 40% of the league in the postseason. 40%. I think Kentucky's more of a college town. Also SEC. That's basketball. Louisville, University of Kentucky. Yep. I could see at some point Canada wanting to get a second team. But based on this bracket, Toronto would be sitting pretty. They won't have to face those teams in the American League East like they do now. Neither would the Atlanta Braves have to face teams in the National League East. They won't be in the same division with the Mets and Phillies anymore. Easier path for them to win a division. Same thing goes for the Blue Jays. No. I appreciate you, CeeLo. I appreciate you, brother. Made Man CeeLo. MMC. Gotta get you a patch, Made Man CeeLo. I like that. Much love, brother. Oh, could you imagine the travel? Oh my God. Yeah, the Mets are going to go to Hawaii to play the Hawaii hula hoops or whatever you call them. Yeah, 3-game series, but they're not going to play for a week because it's 2 days of travel on both ends. They got to recover. Could you imagine that, a team in Hawaii? Holy moly. That would throw chaos. I mean, traveling chaos, complete chaos. Be fun, but be kind of crazy. And does Hawaii have any baseball following of a significant nature? I'd be curious about that one. But the travel would be absolutely brutal. Less brutal on West Coast teams, obviously, but the Hawaii Rainbows, I like it. Okay. I like it. The Mets of the hula. Puerto Rico would be kind of cool. I mean, Yankees have, yeah. I mean, you have a lot of baseball academies in Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. So, yeah. For the flight, yeah, you'd have to fly. You have to fly a Concorde there. The Concorde doesn't even exist anymore, right? You got to fly one of these planes that are supposed to get you to London in an hour, so they get you to Hawaii in 2 hours. But those planes don't exist either yet. So, can you imagine how much it would cost to charter one of those planes? Oh my goodness. Hawaii's got a huge Japanese. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I went there for work a bunch of years ago. I was in Oahu, and it's beautiful. It is beautiful. Puerto Rico would be interesting. The huepas, the Puerto Rico huepa. that's one of the slogans I get. My friends from Puerto Rico. Huepa. No. Players put an eye out from a surfing injury. Exactly. Oh my goodness. But could you imagine, like, this expansion can really take a whole nother life of its own. It really can. But back to it. Would you maneuver any teams out of division into other divisions? Like I said, I would move the Phillies out and put the Nationals in the AL Northeast, and I would try to move the Mets out. I would try to move the Phillies and the Mets to the National League, and maybe bring the I don't know, Cubs and the Cardinals to the AL Northeast, something like that. Yeah, you got that right, Siciliano. You got that right, baby. You know they'll sell out every game. There's no doubt about that, bro. They would definitely draw fans. I'm all for that. It's good baseball. It's really good baseball. Well, remember who the commissioner is he's basically the mouthpiece for who? The players union. So Bad Bunny, national anthem every game. Kansas City to the NL West. Who would you swap out, Buckeye, for Kansas City to the NL West? So in this bracket, well, the NL Northwest, you got the Mariners, the A's, Giants, and the expansion team. Then NL Southwest, you got the Dodgers, the Padres, Angels, and the Diamondbacks. Who would you swap out, Buckeye? I like it. I like the ideas. Pre-game series, I'm telling you. Yeah. This is a good pre-game discussion, too. Yankees play at 1 o'clock today, so. St. Louis to the east. Okay. All right. I'll take that. I like it. I like it. Well, let me wrap this up, gang. I want to thank you all for joining me. I got a conference call in like 2 minutes. But I appreciate the feedback. And these are good questions. You made some good points, made some good questions. That's why I want to have these types of discussions again. Navy ship transitioning from San Diego to Honolulu in 7-8 days. 7-8 days. Oh, God. Yeah. But thank you for bringing your questions. And you're making great points, so I appreciate you. Hopefully we'll celebrate a win today. Let's go Yankees. And again, let's go baseball. Let's keep making the sport better. Peace and love to all of you. Talk to y'all later.